Good morning, y'all.
Hola.
Welcome to the Creative Wonderland. This is my home. I'm Michelle Corey, the founder and CEO of Frequency. This is Jessica Ramsey Olivier.
I love how you say my name. It makes me so happy.
Olivier, who directed the course video for the online course Podcasting 101. And then this is the inimitable Joel Byers.
Favorite thing.
Laptop fingers.
And so we are here because it's launch day. Woohoo! The course officially launched today. We have been running a pre-launch sale for the past 2 weeks, but like today is the day that you actually get to have access to the course if you are one of the early adopters who already bought it. And then obviously, if you haven't, you are okay. You're just going to pay more, which is better for us. So sorry, you missed that window. But it's still super affordable. It's $99. So yeah, kick us off. We're going to do a Q&A and she's going to host it.
Yes, okay. And if you have any questions whatsoever, just tag them in the comments and we'll make sure to get you some answers. I have some questions of my own.
Okay.
I'd like to get started with. Okay, so, both podcasters, what made you guys start the Cultured Podcast and Hot Breath Podcast? What gave you this podcast?
I love this question because it's also where we kick off the course, which is like, what is your why? What is your purpose for having a podcast? Which, as we talk about in the course, during those very overwhelming moments where everything is like an S-storm.
Oh, that's a good live moment.
Hey, kids, it's an S-storm.
You can podcast too.
Yeah, you need to know why you're doing what you're doing. So for me, it was really, I had this like insatiable curiosity and have an insatiable curiosity about the art, but I'm not your typical like elitist or snobby person who, unfortunately, I've encountered a lot in the art world. And so I wanted to make a show that uncovered stories about the art, uncovered art forms that you wouldn't even think about, like cardboard sculpture, all of these different things in a warm and inviting setting. And for me, that was helping to connect people to beauty, inspiration, and positive energy.
That's awesome.
Whoa, yeah. Gotta follow that.
No pressure, Joel. Good luck. Go ahead, buddy.
Well, my podcast, Hot Breath, started with a similar like passion. I had a passion for comedy, and I saw that most comedy podcasts were all just comedians trying to out-funny each other. So I wanted to go in a different angle and actually create a podcast for people to learn about comedy as opposed to just hear people doing comedy. So it really grew from that and is now like an educational platform to really make comedy accessible to everyone.
Nice, I love that.
Such themes.
I know. This
Yeah.
is going to work together.
Yeah.
And then what about this course? What was the inspiration to create this course?
So this is a very surreal moment for Frequency and me in particular because it was April of last year that I was sitting down and working through the spreadsheet of like all of the planning that I was going to be unrolling with this business. And it was just like just an inkling of an idea. And one of the things, the mission behind Frequency is to make high quality podcast production accessible. And so we want to help to not just help people make the shows, but if that's not within your budget, then we want to be able to extend our knowledge so that you can do it for yourself and do it well, or our definition of well, right? So the inspiration behind this has been since day one for Frequency, and seeing it come to life, like we really had to invest in focusing on other areas of the business, like full service production and rolling out the production packages to even get to a point where we could afford to put in the investment in this course that we think it deserves. And this is like great production quality. We spent a full 9-hour session writing the script together. This is a labor of love.
Yes, a labor of love, for sure.
A labor of love. And I wrote and designed the workbook myself, and it is you are our content strategist in Frequency, and we are the brains behind, the Coca-Cola Company's podcast, Apple and the Statue of Liberty podcast, and we put all of that into the workbook.
Yeah.
So the inspiration was let's just do something nuts and give away our secret sauce.
Yes, absolutely.
And make it accessible to everyone. And I think what's interesting in the theme of the first two questions is we're focusing on, it's a personal passion of ours, but we're also focused on quality. And we saw when we started a podcast, there was a gap in a podcast we wanted to hear. And now we're seeing everyone trying to get into podcasting, and there's a gap in the quality and accessibility of information.
Yes.
And now it's all housed under frequency, which is, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. We already yeah.
All boomerangs. All boomerangs.
The rest of this life will be a pseudo boomerang.
Yeah.
In fact, these are important. Just boomerangs.
Yeah. So, speaking of making the course, the shoot day where we shot the most fun information ever. This is like, I'm really excited about this question. This is like a question I'm really excited about. I would like you both to pick 3 words to sum up shooting the video component to the course.
Yo.
I would say enlightening, inspiring, informational.
Ooh. Okay, good. He covered all of the positive ones.
That was good.
Yeah.
Who do we have?
You can't get out of this question. She's trying to hide from the question.
Who's over there? What do I see? No. It was I had the time of my life that day. It was so I would say one of the words is grueling because we filmed a 20-minute course over the course of one day, and it was magic. So one of the words is grueling, but the other word is magical because the way that everybody on this team came together and mostly in roles that they had never quite done before and like killed them. Not just like, oh, she managed, like killed them. Is you see it through the course. So grueling, magical, and then definitely inspirational. Like I would mirror that, like definitely inspirational because it finally became clear on shoot day what we were doing and what we were about to provide to people.
Oh, yeah.
And to see so many of us together. So it's like, I worked individually and met people, but to see like most of the team there and like everyone focused on achieving this goal and just the synergy that was involved, I was like, frequency. Yeah. Frequency.
And you're not gonna know for sure. But you're like that many hours in a small room together.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Sometimes basic. Like you're going to like learn each other. You're gonna find out some stuff, and everything we found out was just like
amazing.
Exactly.
It was a high vibration area. We were all just vibing high, having fun, passionate and kind. There was just such a kindness. So like even in those moments where Ina, our director of photography, was like, I'm exhausted. Joel was like, let me go get you some coffee. We were like, let's take a breather. Like we were all supporting each other, and you can just tell from the video, I think.
Yeah.
Sure. That's the spirit of frequency, that energy, that high vibration.
Yes, I know. What? Joel, you hired.
Boomerang break.
Do we have a question over here?
We have a question from Kelly Knight.
Kelly!
Podcaster. She says, I'd love to do some kind of call-in podcast. Is that a good idea? What tools would I need to have a call-in show?
That's a great question. I think it feels very radio to me. So I think like really think about what the purpose of the call-ins are, because there are tools that are coming out and that you can use, but it's a little bit tricky. And I think it makes the content a little bit murkier. So I think the reason your listeners are listening are one thing. So you want to make sure that you're serving the reason they're listening by having those call-ins. Because another thing is, I was just talking to another podcast yesterday. We're helping them with marketing strategy. And, we were talking about how to incorporate that rather than having it on your podcast or like published in your feed, you could think about having Instagram live Q&As where you're inviting different listeners from your show to join you for an Instagram live. Because you can invite people and share the video component. So I think there might be creative ways for you to incorporate that listener, that community, and make them feel like richly a part of your show, other than the live calling. But at the end of the day, I'll just wrap this up quickly. At the end of the day, if that is something that you know they would love and that you want to make it happen, there are tools out there. Like, for instance, a lot of people use like Google Hangouts. There's a live function. So you could use like a Zoom or a live Google Hangouts to record it, or Facebook Live even. Do some research because there's new technologies out there. I just forgot the name of one of them.
I would say the positive to the Instagram Live component would just be you're like doubling your content as well. So with the phone call, you're only getting one dimension of content, but with live, you're getting video and the audio, and you can repurpose both. So
yeah,
I like the live approach.
That's a good point. Have you? And then did you pull the audio out of it and put it on your podcast?
I recorded it with a separate device. So it's not the best audio quality, but your audience will appreciate like the content if you preface, hey, this may not sound like you're used to, but it's of you. So,
yeah, that's actually a good point. The beauty of podcasting is that listeners have more, there's more give in terms of the quality of the recording. But I think there's a give and a take. So like what we like to teach people is high quality recording, high quality content. That puts you above 85-90% of the podcasts out there. But we do like some of our clients started with like a gaming mic and they're getting massive downloads because they know exactly who they're talking to. They have a niche. They're speaking to that niche beautifully. The content is gold, so they're still getting tons of downloads. And that's in the course. Like we talk about that first part of the course is know your who and find your why.
Good question.
Really good
Awesome.
question. Thanks,
Kelly.
Yeah.
Okay, so this course, it really like holds the hand of a beginner podcaster. Yeah, they get to learn some lessons through your eyes. Is there anything that you wish you would have known about podcasting? If you had like one lesson that you wish you could have known about podcasting before you started your podcast, something that you would have learned, is it in this course?
No, I feel like Joel and I can agree we did everything perfectly from the get-go. Yeah. Next question.
Yeah.
No.
I literally wish I had this course when I started.
Yes.
Because like the amount of work I didn't realize a podcast requires that we talked about in the course like spending like upwards of 15 hours on a single episode. And like that's something you just don't know until you get into it. And not on top of the hours of research that like really a 20-minute course, we have distilled hours and hours and hours into just 20 minutes. Like, so we're saving people tons of time, a huge learning curve. And I'm not even saying that because I'm a part of the course, but like there was literally like nothing like this.
No, there's nothing like this.
Nothing like this. So the fact that we had to kind of bootstrap and learn the hard way helped us to appreciate the content we're providing. But I really wish I knew going into it that like the amount of work is required.
Yeah. And I will say like it was cool because we're still learning. Like we're learning all the time. Yeah. We're learning on another level, right? So it's really exciting to see that. But even when you and I were sitting down writing the script, we were learning from each other, you know? So there's this really cool component that the two of us, when we come together, we're bringing so much different experience from all sides of this that we've just taught ourselves over years and years and years. I definitely think one of the most valuable hidden little gems of this course is the technical launch guide. It is one page in the workbook, but it is a question we get asked all the time. So 2 gems, technical launch guide, and we just launched on frequency.media, the ultimate guide to podcast equipment. And so like there's all this strategic stuff we're teaching you that is crucial and nobody else teaches it. And then on top of that, we are holding your hand if you're a newbie podcaster through the equipment that you need to buy and some like recommendations from our engineers, and then also through this technical launch guide through things that like people don't often think about with technical launch. So that's Becca's head. Say hi. Haha, we got you. Say hi.
You're also on Instagram?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't want to interrupt the conversation, but I was like, you are literally right on Instagram, right there.
She's like, I'm out. She's like, no. I'm like, she's like twerking up on Instagram. Some are like
our views go way up.
Right.
It's a weird world.
It's crazy. Work yeah.
Okay, so this course, like we were talking about, is awesome for new podcasters.
Yeah.
Is this beneficial for seasoned podcasters, veteran podcasters? Could it be useful to somebody who's had a podcast for a while?
Oh, good Lord, yes.
Yeah.
In fact, a lot of our early adopter podcasters that bought the course during the pre-launch sale are established podcasters who are like, oh my gosh, I never stopped to think about who I'm talking to and why I have this podcast. And I'm ready to take this to the next level. So I need that foundation in order to do that.
I agree. And even from the technical aspect, we provide a lot of insight from professional engineers that if you're just a podcaster that's bootstrapping everything, there's going to be little details you overlook to just the overall production side of it.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
the checklist that we provide that make you sit there. I mean, listen, you're going to get out of this course what you put into it. So the format is that there's these little minute and a half chunks and snippets. Who's over there?
We got a what's up from Matt Whiteside.
Hey!
What's
Joe
up,
Levert.
Matt?
We have
Oh, we got Joe Levert up in here.
We got Steve Rivera saying, Joe, what's good?
Hey!
Matt and
Steven and Kelly and Shelly.
You get a shout out. For joining, you get a shout out and a dance.
Ask questions. Your podcasting questions.
Yeah, ask questions.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the format of the course is a 20-minute video that's broken up into little chunks. I think the longest video is 4 minutes. And so each part walks you through the next section of your workbook and then says, this is why we're doing this. This is the context. This is how it's done. Now go to your workbook for this activity break and do the work. So we can't do that work for you. You have to do it. And so walking through the workbook step by step, really by the end of it, you end up with a podcast development plan, which has all of this strategy. You know who your listener is. You've defined your listener persona, and you've got robust production checklists for pre-production, production, and post-production. And we have this giant 11 by 17 page in the workbook that breaks down some of the most popular podcast formats and walks you through examples. Oh my gosh, nobody else has that. Examples, all the different phases of production for those different examples. And so you really, we're not taking for granted that you know anything, but if you know everything, then we're still providing value.
Boom.
Awesome. Mic drop.
Mic drop.
Don't drop mic. Don't drop mic.
No.
We not stand by dropping mic. Absolutely not.
All mics matter. I don't know if that's, I'm sorry. That was a very unwoke.
That was a sneaky. That was a sneaky on wokeness.
Well, can I
Blame it on
do
Patreon there to bring out. My bad, y'all. My bad.
Frequency formally apologizes for any mics you dropped and also for Joel.
Sorry.
Ooh, I got a giggle out of back.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you have any?
It's a poetic.
Yeah.
You know, like a frequency policy.
Remember, it's Anybody on Insta asking questions?
No questions yet. Just love. Just all the Insta love.
Mm-hmm.
Love from your butt?
For my butt.
Oh, cool. Wow. Okay. So no love from your butt.
What's that theme?
Did someone post another one on Facebook?
Matt said,
LOL.
Oh.
Okay, so this is a question for you guys. For small businesses and brands that are thinking about using podcasting as a marketing tool, using it strategically for their brand, because that's a whole new era, right? You have the people who know they love podcasts and they want to make a podcast, they're already in the demo, and you have the people who, I've talked to some people in my family, they're listening, that are hey, could a podcast be useful for me? And they're not the typical listener. They're not a typical podcast follower. How would you say that a podcast would be used for a brand or a influencer or a small business for their strategy?
The timing of this question is great, and the numbers are in on this. Well, Forbes just released an article this week talking about that podcasting is one of the top 5 ways to market and brand your business. So, I mean, there's numerous articles showing this, but I can tell you from personal experience that podcasting has built my network to become an international, like, connection. I've had people from Ireland and UK and Australia and Canada all reaching out, connecting with me, wanting to know more about not only the podcast, but what I do and what my business is all about.
Oh, yeah.
I can't recommend podcasting enough for any business trying to connect directly with their audience. I honestly think that podcasting is the most effective way to do that.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think it's the most effective way to build a loyal following, a community around your product or service. There are caveats, though. And so number one is know what you're doing. So, like, understand the strategy behind your podcast and how it connects to the larger, what I call, ecosystem of your brand. So, like, what are you trying to sell? What are your goals for your business? What are the messages that you want to put out there? And how does a podcast amplify those and fit into those, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, really, the reason this course has never been taught in this way is because I'm a marketing person. So, like, legacy, I'm a marketing and communications expert. And we have worked through Creative Powerhouse, my first business, on marketing plans. And then we sort of, like, infused that marketing strategy and approach into content development for podcasting. And so what you are resulting with, like, if you take this course, you have the beginnings of a marketing strategy because you're already identifying your who, your what, your why, your how. I mean, it's fundamental. So you really, for any small business owners who want to market their business or thought leaders who want to sell more of whatever they're selling, be it a message, a product, or a service, I highly recommend this course. But entering into this course with that intention that this is the beginning of setting this new marketing channel for yourself. Also, one more thing, what's amazing about podcasting is that you can't fake follows. So what we've seen with Instagram and other social channels is, like, there are a lot of bots. You can buy followers where you see like 100,000 followers on an account, but they're getting, 20 likes. Those are fake followers. You cannot fake downloads. You cannot fake an audience. So this is authentic, true connection with your audience. And just like the Joeliverse is showing up over here for Joel, this is what that is. That's that connection that Joel is working on daily. It's amazing. I love it. And Brent.
Great. Yeah.
It's a good question.
Okay, pop up, I guess. We do have a question from Laurie Buchner.
Hey!
She asked, in addition to teaching clients how to do a podcast, can you help them with developing the theme of their podcast? If they have a general idea, can you help them fine-tune it to make it more attractive to listeners?
Oh, yeah. That's the content strategy that we do. That's an awesome question. Thanks, Lori. We love you. Love you, Lori. Yes, that is, so we offer different packages. So you can take the course if that's more within your budget. That's under $100 and you can do it yourself. But what we've had is some production package clients. So you can buy a production package, which starts at $400 per episode for full post-production and includes studio time with a sound engineer here in Atlanta, and we're looking at rolling those out in New York and LA. And so you can do that and add on to that a content strategy package where we can also be like, yeah, that's her. And so we come on and you tack us on to the beginning of that where we fully develop the podcast development plan for you. And we do very, very, very deep research, And then once we develop the show for you, the concept for you that's going to be the most successful possible, then you can begin with the production package. Or you can do full service where we come on from the very beginning and move on from there. And it's $400 per episode, and there's 10 episode packages. So it's actually the first package level is $4,000, but it sounds bigger than what you think. Thank you, Becca, for catching me on that. $400 per episode.
There's also a reason ad revenue for podcasting in the past 2 years I just read has grown. It was like 60 or 80%.
Yeah.
Like this is
massive.
booming market right now.
Yeah.
that may seem like oh, that's kind of an upfront cost, but like the return is like exponential.
The return is amazing as long as you go at it with strategy.
Yeah.
And podcasting, this is why we're teaching a whole course on strategy, and why it's like kind of bananas to all of us that nobody has done it quite like this before, is because podcasting is one of those things that if you approach it with intention, it can be one of the most powerful tools in your toolbox. But if you approach it haphazardly, which again, anyone can plug a mic into a computer or not, or no mic, or just use a phone or computer to record audio and put it out to the world, but it will drown amongst the 750,000 plus other podcasts out there. So it's really about putting in what you hope to get out from it. Also, to that point, we're going to be, so advertising, a lot of podcasters think they can only make money off their podcast from advertising. That's actually what I call an old model, and